time with us this morning as well, Kristel. Now, Kristel, just looking at this announcement that has come through from SARS, and we know at this point in time, SARS beefing up its systems and looking at wherever they can recover money. And we know that for a long time now, that the radar has been on wealthy taxpayers, particularly looking at people who have stashed money away offshore.
Yes, that's right. I think especially there's been quite a hype in the last few weeks. This has also been coming from a few articles last year that was in the various newspapers early this year. And then also the minister in his budget speech made quite a big emphasis on skilling up SARS. They've allowed extra budget, allocated extra budget to SARS this year. So I think this is really catching momentum.
Yes. Now, looking at SARS and as you mentioned in the budget as well, I think there was 3 billion rand that is obviously has been allocated to SARS to basically improve its system, the quality of its people. But just looking at offshore and people stashing money away offshore. Now, at this point in time, what SARS is saying that there is more than 400 billion rand in assets that South African taxpayers have. And I'm sure, Kristel, these must have obviously be accumulated over a long period of time. The key issue here is in terms of SARS, in terms of the expertise, the skill at this point in time. We know there is this huge amount of money. Does SARS have the capacity at this point in time?
Honestly, I don't think they've got the capacity now. As you know, I mean, under the leadership of Tomoyani, they lost a lot of skills, and I think that's in the public domain. But I must tell you, they are running with a massive recruitment drive. They're actually recruiting 570 people as we speak. I don't know if you keep watch on their Facebook page. They're advertising that on a daily basis. 370 of them are highly skilled, specialized roles, and 200 are graduates. So we're talking about a massive recruitment drive. So I think in the next year, if they get this right, I think they may have the capacity right. Yes.
Yes. Now, it's always not easy to establish what taxpayers have got in terms of assets, and particularly those that are offshore at this point in time. And SARS on its own, or looking at their systems in South Africa, obviously will not be able to deal with the situation. Obviously, it requires some sort of interaction in terms of agreements as well with offshore companies, offshore banks, offshore countries as well, to try and establish, the true nature of this wealth and how that wealth had actually basically gone out of South Africa in the first place.
Yes, that's 100%. Right. I think what they're going to need to do is they're going to have to tap into a lot of systems, because I think if you just look at it from the South African and what you disclose in your tax return, and you may know that it would be very hard to pick up these disclosed or these hidden structures, these complicated structures that they are referring to, by just filling in your tax return every year. So they have to tap into these things. One of these methods are the automatic exchange of information. And it's interesting, I mean, SARS have been receiving this information from 2017. So now we're in 2021, it's 4 years later. So now they're starting to look at this information. And in terms of that, they will get information from other revenue authorities, offshore banks. But remember, it's only 90 countries, and there's a few countries that can ask the information from. But you can only ask for the information if you know what to ask for. So I'm concerned about the countries that's not part of the automatic exchange of information. And then obviously I think other things that they are starting to look at, and this is where that lifestyle audits are coming in. They're looking at NATIS to see what cars are being registered, very luxury cars. You all saw the article about the Ferraris. People driving Ferraris don't earn more than 34,000 rand a month. And then in addition to that, they're using the deeds office. And I think these tools have always been there. But I think now, under the leadership of the new commissioner, with the input from Judge Dennis Davis, and really this need to collect taxes, in a country where I think we can't raise our taxes anymore. And I think we saw that in the budget now. We can't raise taxes. So we have to collect what has not been collected. So I think it's a positive thing that they're starting to look and using all these tools. But again, these tools have always been there.
Yes. Now, obviously, we've seen it with the improved collections of taxes in any case, and we know that the numbers have been up. And Edward Kieswetter obviously has made a huge difference since he's taken over at SARS, and he recognizes where the shortfalls are at this point in time, where the shortcomings are, and going all out basically with all guns blazing to try and make sure that he would maximize on the revenue streams.
Yes, that's 100% right. I think that's a good way of describing it, guns blazing. And I think the positive turnout, just from my side, we do a lot of disputes with stores, and for many years there's been almost this deadlock that you cannot just sit around a table and resolve a matter. And all of a sudden, under his leadership, matters are being resolved. We can settle on matters, refunds. We can see an improvement on refunds being paid out. So I think he went out guns blazing, and I think he's doing a good job in a difficult situation at the moment.
Just as far as wealthy individuals are concerned, people have got money offshore, and just as a matter of advice, coming from your side, and if people have not declared this on the income tax returns, what should they be doing, Kristel?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In my view, is be careful, and I know that some of these high net worth individuals may have already received a letter from SARS stating that they've received information about their offshore. They need to come clean, and everybody is talking about the buzzword voluntary disclosure program. And I'm all for that, but there was a recent cases, and we've known that SARS has taken certain positions on some of the requirements for doing a voluntary disclosure and then doing it validly. So my advice is, if you do think that there's something that you have not declared, even if you're sure or not sure, my recommendation is to rather get proper tax advice, so seek tax advice so that someone can look at what you've disclosed, what you have not disclosed. Do you really have a problem? And then once you've confirmed that you have undisclosed income or undisclosed certain assets or not disclosed it correctly, then that tax practitioner, can then assist you to properly prepare the application to SARS for voluntary disclosure and to make sure that you comply with all the requirements, because you only have almost one bite at that cherry. If you did something wrong, then you cannot go back and fix it and then reapply. And also tax practitioners would have the experience dealing with SARS every day on these matters, on how they perceive certain requirements and then to word it correctly in your application. So I think I urge people that believe that they've got something that they need to declare, or even if you're not sure, they do like a health check. I call it a health check with a tax practitioner. And then if you need to disclose, then you can do it with that experience from the tax practitioner to do it properly.
Kristel, how open is SARS in terms of accommodating taxpayers through the VDP, the voluntary disclosure program?
That's actually one area that concerns me a bit, because I think there's a lot of problems. And the one positive thing is that we've had recent interactions with SARS, because I think they realize that there's an issue with the voluntary disclosure program, in the sense of it takes very long. It takes over a year. But they've also realized that there's this difference in how we approach requirements. And I think at least we're sitting around a table and we are talking about it. But what worries me is that, as I mentioned, SARS takes certain positions on the requirements. For instance, and I think a big one is it needs to be voluntary. And there's a difference of opinion on what is voluntary. And that's why, for instance, if you received a letter telling you that we know about certain things, so we give you an opportunity to come clean, based on recent case law and based on some interactions I've had with SARS, they would try and argue, but that's not voluntary anymore. So they're going to, in any case, issue or penalize you, although it's a lower penalty, but they'll just say it's not voluntary. So my view is, I think at the moment, the system is not great. It's not user-friendly. And that's why I say any individual from the street cannot just apply themselves. You have to tread carefully. And I say this because the requirements are being differently interpreted by SARS and taxpayers. Hopefully, there's a case going on appeal now to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and we'll get more guidance on that. But until we've got that, we actually sit with precedent that's not great, and also we know how SARS sees certain of these requirements.
Well, Kristel, let's see what develops as far as SARS and the wealthy taxpayers stash offshore, with their money stash offshore. Let's see how it goes. But for now, thank you very much for that and for your time with us this morning here on News and Views on Salam Media.
It's a big pleasure. Thank you for having me, and have a good day.
You too. All the best to you. Kristel van Rensburg, Director in the Tax Department at ENS Africa, with us this morning.
The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted thousands.
We're now being told by our teams and staff on the ground that the situation is becoming quite dire there.
Who now face economic hardship and turmoil across all sectors.
The majority of South Africans are now a lot more concerned in terms of putting food on the table.
Penny Appeal's support to thousands of families in South Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Yemen and Palestine has been possible thanks to your support.
One thing we've learned to make our intentions, decide that we want to make this difference.
Thousands more need our help in securing food to sustain their families. Feed our world with Penny Appeal to provide food security to communities in need. We are on the ground. Donate today towards a monthly food pack or breakfast daily to school-going children, or provide impoverished communities with sustainable vegetable gardens. Visit www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Osman's Taj Mahal Spice and Rice. For over 80 years, Osman's Taj Mahal have been perfecting the art of the perfect blend of spices, pure, aromatic, and well-seasoned. Spices to tantalize your taste buds. From creative cuisines to gastronomical gourmet goodies, from exotic odors to traditional dishes, Osman's Taj Mahal have remained synonymous with quality spices and condiments. Taj Mahal rice, beans, and lentils. Try our range of chili bite mixes, rose and ilachi syrup, our quick and easy biryani pack, and our traditional range of spice blends. Osman's Taj Mahal. There is no substitute for quality.
I've been waiting. The best charity is that which is given in Ramadan. Support Gift of the Needy with their family hamper distribution from just 1,600 Rand in South Africa, Mozambique and Malawi. Standard Bank. Gift of the Needy 272-327-654. Visit www.giftoftheneedy.com to donate online and view our projects. Gift of the Needy, bringing ease to those in need.
DoosieMed Medicine Depot, Retail Pharmacy and Emergency Medical Depot. Conveniently situated in the DoosieMed Medical Center, Corner Burger and Boshoff Street, Pietermaritzburg. We provide safe, affordable and convenient medical facilities. Open till 10 p.m. every day of the year. We have a full house clinic that operates from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., which is run by a qualified sister. The clinic offers immunization, vaccination, wellness, general consultation, and more. Call DoosieMed Medicine Depot on 033 3421 DoosieMed Medicine Depot, your pharmacy of choice. Give charity without delay, for it stands in the way of calamities. For child-headed households in Bloemendal in the Eastern Cape, the daily diet consists of white bread and a carton of cheap juice or sugar water, known locally as the poppy water diet. Make a difference to that one child or family. The Al-Fida Foundation has over the past 13 years worked on the ground and gathered the largest database in the Eastern Cape region of Muslim Zakah recipients. Phone our offices at 041 484 1288 or visit our website at www.alfida.co.za. The Al-Fida Foundation, your social investment partner in the Eastern Cape.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
The time is just gone 8:38 a.m. and we continue this morning looking at Myanmar, looking at the military, and we have learned that they may extend their emergency rule by up to 2 years. We join on the line by Mabrur Ahmed, co-founder of Restless Beings. Mabrur, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, obviously we've seen now the military consolidating its grip on power, and now all this talk about extending emergency rule by up to 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's anything necessarily hugely surprising. It's merely confirmation of their intention. We've known not even from the beginning of the coup, but from many years ago. From the, if you like, the establishment of the junta, that the Burmese military, the Myanmar military, the Tatmadaw, whichever term you want to use, is a violent, oppressive, and a non-human rights conforming organization, right? If you look at many different definitions across the world, and as much as I don't like using this word, they are a terrorist outfit, right? They are going about their business. They're going about kind of ruling their country through a rule of terror, and that's the only way to explain it. Since the 1st of February, they have massacred over more than 600 different people, of which at least 15% of those are children, right? And then we're talking about civilians. The country is on the brink of war, and so when the military and its government, if you like, now say that it could be in place for 2 years, I think its intention is probably even beyond that.
Exactly. And I think despite them saying, and you talk about the Tatmadaw, and what they obviously are saying that at some point in time, they're talking about returning to civilian rule and, looking at, obviously at the same time, enforcing this state of emergency. And how long can people actually hold out? And I mean, even if it's a month or is it 2 years, it's a very, very long time for people to wait while they are obviously consolidating their power.
I mean, I would make the comparison, and although sometimes it's not fair to make comparisons, I would make the comparison to Syria, and to the way that people came out as part of the Arab Spring movement, and they thought that they were going to overturn the president, and they were unable to do so, and what it led to was civil war, and that's what this situation in Myanmar is looking like it's going to lead to. It's looking like it's leading to civil war. In fact, we already know that in Karen State, the military is actively engaged in war and is actively engaging in torturing civilians as well. And there is armed resistance within Karen State. Maybe not so within other parts of the country yet, but this can't continue for too much longer. People, lives cannot continue to be lost. Blood cannot continue to be spilled. Without some sort of recompense. And although the biggest and the most admirable part of Myanmar's campaign, the civilian campaign thus far against its military coup dictators, has been of non-violence, has been of peace, has been of welcoming all types of people, all ages, all genders, all ethnicities. That's not going to be viable for much longer if bloodshed continues, because it's becoming increasingly unsafe, and the military is becoming increasingly violent.
Yes, interesting that you make mention of Syria, Mabrur, because we can also draw parallels to what has happened in Egypt in terms of Sisi and the coup where he overthrew Mohamed Morsi, and we know what has happened: the crackdowns, the brutal crackdowns, the imprisonment of basically hundreds of people, and also rendering any form of opposition helpless, totally helpless, and at the hands of brutal dictatorship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good comparison to make as well. I suppose the only difference between Syria and between Egypt is the fact that this military has actually, in some form or the other, under different, if you like, individuals, it's been in a leadership position since 1962. Right? We've seen this type of move by the military time and time again. We've seen the hugest of restrictions against its population for the best part of 5 decades, 6 decades now. right? Alongside maybe North Korea, Burma was known as the kind of pariah state of the world, where its people were completely denied any sort of access to anything. Until recently, maybe in 2008, and now we're heading back in that direction. And I suppose that's the reason why there's so much alarm. Plus, on top of that, so far, of course, I'm not trying to diminish the and this is why comparisons are not good, but I'm not trying to diminish fault away from military in Syria or in Egypt, but this military has committed a genocide, right? And the Burmese military has committed a genocide as well, on top of that. And so that's the reason why it's causing us all alarm, right? I mean, and rightfully so. But also, we have to look at the region and the stability within the region, and the ability for this, military to now cause instability within the region, right? I mean, we already know Thailand has its issues with democracy and curtailing of democracy, but the rest of the region is attempting to come away from dictatorship to a degree, and come away from military rule and enter into democracy. And this guise of democracy, close by also in India, is also there. And so that's why, unless there is some action taken against the blatant and flagrant undemocratic military dictatorship, it really does set precedent for the rest of the region. And that could be, unbelievable for that part of the world, which is very, very populous, in terms of the global population.
Where does this leave the Rohingya now? Now that this announcement is made in Tokyo about emergency rule being extended up to 2 years.
I mean, if anything, it doesn't really change the Rohingya position, because the Rohingya position until now has been excluded, until now has been unwanted from Burma, and until now has been ignored from the democratic process in Burma. And so really, whether the military extends by 2 years or by 3 years or by 6 months is inconsequential. The misery remains the same. The hope is what changes, right? So there has been hope that the military rule can be overturned and civilian leadership established, and there's